All right, guys, welcome. This is called Social Media Magic. I threw magic in there because it makes it sound more fanciful. So we're going to be going through some strategies for you guys to help develop a social media presence. I'm going to kind of start off basic. There will be time for Q&A at the end. But if at any point I say something and it strikes up a question, just feel free to chime in. But I really want to help you guys develop a strong social media presence. It's super important today. So if we look on the screen, we've got 2.7 billion active Facebook users in the world right now, which is insane because there's 7 billion people on planet Earth, and nearly 3 billion of them, almost half the world's population, are active on Facebook. That's not inactive accounts or people that barely use it or make an account and I forgot my password. These are active monthly users, nearly 3 billion people. So when we talk about the digital space, I want you guys to understand that the digital space is like just another platform. And you know, when we want to get evangelistic, we like back in the day, I know you guys came out of situations where you do a lot of street preaching. Like methods of evangelism are shifting now. Like street preaching, it has a negative connotation to it. So the minute you grab a bullhorn and go on a street, like people already tune you out. They don't want to hear it anymore. Door to door, we did a lot of that growing up, where you go and like hand out flyers at doors. When I was a kid, when the doorbell rang, it was like cause for joy. And now when the doorbell rings, I'm like, what's going on? Like I hide because I think it's a Jehovah's Witnesses, you know? Like I get mad if somebody comes to my door and I'm not expecting them. I'm like, you had the audacity to show up at my house and not knock or call ahead of time. So the way to reach people now really is through the digital space. So people spend an average of 3 hours per day on social media, 3 hours per day. So we've got nearly 3 billion people on Facebook, and they're spending on average 3 hours per day on social media, mostly on Facebook. So we've got a massive audience who's spending a massive amount of time. Come on in. Come on in, guys. You guys can grab a seat right up front. So we've got a massive audience spending a massive amount of time on a massive platform. These are people that we want to put our message in front of them, okay? How many times has your church posted on social media in the past month? This is a question I want you guys to ask yourself. You don't have to answer it. Come on in. Just find a seat, guys. There's a seat over here by Paul, and there's a seat over there by Ben. It's Ben, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yes.
So how many times has your church used social media in the past month? I want you to ask yourself this question. I was at a friend of mine's church. He had a very large church. It was 800 people. And I went in to kind of teach them some stuff on social media. And I asked his church, how many times have you posted on social media in the past month? And people gave me different answers. Some people like, oh, 5. Some people like 15. Some people like whatever. Just it was a room full of people and they gave me arbitrary guesses. The answer was 0. I had gone on their social media on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. They had posted 0 times in the past month, a church of 800 people. So if we're talking about a platform, Facebook in particular, with nearly 3 billion people, where people spend 3 hours per day, it behooves you to get your message in front of their faces. There should never be a week that goes by where you're not putting something out there in front of people. What is your audience online? What is your audience online? That's an important place for you guys to start. What is my audience? A lot of people, we have no clue what our audience is. If I ask you how many people come to your church on a Sunday, you'd probably be able to tell me. Like, it's different now because of COVID, but let's go before COVID. You knew I can expect 105 people. I know I can expect 70 people. For us before COVID, we were averaging about 450. So I knew on a Sunday morning, I'm going to have approximately 450 in my church on a Sunday morning. That's my audience. When I get up to preach, I know how many kids' church programs I need. I know how many teachers I need in the classrooms. I know how many greeters I need at the doors, all of those things, because I know to expect approximately 450. Now, as the congregation grows, I need to grow my volunteer base. I need to grow the different ministries that I have to meet the needs of the people that show up. My parking lot team gets bigger, all of those things. As you guys, if you come from like a smaller background, as you come in, we probably have ministries that you guys have no need of because there's a larger church. But I have to know my audience. I have to know how many people are showing up. The same thing translates into the digital space as well. How many people are following you guys? What are the demographics of the people that are following you? You can actually go in on social media and find out the dominant demographics of people that are following you. It's important to know that. So I know for us, our primary demographic is women that are between the ages of 25 and 35. That's our primary demographic, head and shoulders above any other demographic. After that, it goes to men in that same age bracket. And then it goes up from 35 to 45 women. And then it goes down to under 25 women. And then it goes up to over 35 men, and it jumps around from there. But I know the demographics. So when I'm generating content, I know how many people are following me on all my social media platforms. I know the race demographics. I know the gender. I know the age demographics of the people that are following me. It's important to know that, because when you know that, you're going to be able to develop a better strategy to reach those people. Have you guys ever noticed how sometimes on social media, like you'll be talking about, moisturizer, and then all of a sudden there's ads for moisturizer, or, you're talking about a new car, and then all of a sudden it's like, hey, here's a truck. Because your social media is tailoring the marketing to you, because you are their audience. So marketers want to know who's looking at their products, so they want to put it in front of the appropriate people. So churches, we need to do the same thing as well. So for me, in my context, I've got a very racially diverse church. So the content that I put out there needs to reflect that racial diversity, as an example. But you've got to start with knowing your online audience. So this is an example of a social media page, right? We're going to get to that in a second. So knowing my audience, Victory has over 30, I'm going to go on our YouTube video views for a second. We've had over 30,000 video views on YouTube in 2020. That is up from the year before. In 2019, we had about 12,000 video views on YouTube. Our video views have gone up exponentially. One of the main reasons is because we're putting more content out, but also more people are watching us digitally. We estimate there's probably about 200 to 250 people that tune into us online every single week. That's our estimation. So that has contributed to 30,000 views on YouTube in 2020. We've had over 3,000 watched hours on YouTube. So you can go through and do the math and figure out how many people are watching for how long. About 3,000 watched hours. You can go through on your videos and break down how long people are watching your messages or your sermons. One of the things that we discovered is we were putting up our whole services on YouTube because we live streamed them. And then we were leaving up the song service and everything. And then I realized I was going into the analytics, and I was realizing that people were just skipping the song service after the live stream. Like if they were watching the live stream, they were watching the song service. But generally, my spike would happen right about the time the message starts. So now I just cut the music out. Like it's in the live stream, but I go through, and when I archive it, I cut the music out because I'm just trying to get people to what they came for, which is usually the teaching. They're wanting to learn something. And if they want to listen to music, they're probably going to go watch Hillsong or whatever. I don't know. Come on in, guys. I don't really see any seats, but you're going to have to stand. Sorry. So this is a part of knowing your audience. Okay. We have about 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. This is great. YouTube is, a lot of people don't realize this about YouTube. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. When people search, they're using Google first and YouTube second. So if I were to ask you what you think, you're like, Siri, I don't know, like Safari, what's the next biggest search engine? It's Google and then YouTube. Google owns both, so they actually work really, really well together. So when people search for something on Google, a lot of times it will pull up a related YouTube video. So it's important to be on YouTube. It's important to be on all the major platforms, in my opinion. So we're at 1,500 subscribers on YouTube, which is actually pretty strong for a church our size. A lot of churches, you'll see them with a really large Facebook following and then a really tiny YouTube subscriber base. It's always been important to me, because I come from a video background, to have a large YouTube subscriber base. Because, and this is the reason why, we have a very strong female following on Facebook, because Facebook tends to skew female. But the largest platform in the world for males is YouTube. So I want to have a strong voice towards males as well, in addition to females. So I know that I need to go where the guys are. The guys are on YouTube. So I'm like, okay, I want to build a strong presence on Facebook, but I also want to go after the guys. So I'm going on YouTube as well. YouTube is #1 for men on any social media platform in the world. So we have 1,500 subscribers on YouTube. The majority of those subscribers are men. So I know my audience on YouTube. So I can tailor my message specifically on YouTube for that male heavy audience. And then on Facebook, probably lean more towards a female audience as well. We have podcasts as well. All of our sermons, here's the great thing. When it comes to social media, content is super important. I'm gonna get to that in a second. But you are a church, so you are a content generator, right? That's what we do. Pastors in the room, like our job is to generate content every single week. A lot of businesses, they don't have content to generate. So it's like, hey, I have like a sweater business on Etsy. How do I generate content? Like pastors, you're writing a sermon every single week. Figure out how to repurpose that content, which I'll get to more in a second, to go on every available platform. So for example, if I have a sermon that I preach, that can go on YouTube, but I can also take the audio from that and put it in a podcast form. So now I have a podcast. So somebody that's driving to work, they're not going to watch a YouTube video, but they might listen to my podcast and subscribe to that as well. So I take the audio from my video sermon and I put it into podcast form. And now that's available to people on another platform. So we had 7,000 podcast downloads in 2020. These are not streams, these are downloads. So people are actually going in, grabbing the messages and downloading it to their phones. You have an audience. You have an audience. You need to know it. On our Facebook, we have over 2,500 people on Facebook. We have nearly 1,000 on Instagram. And our live streams averaged over 500 views every single Sunday with 30 plus engagements. Okay? That's our figures. You need to know yours. Now I want to get into, this is more of the strategy. So I kind of set up the social media platforms and their significance. Now I want to get more to the strategy. These are things I want you guys to take note of. Your audience needs consistent, compelling content. Your audience needs consistent, compelling content. If you lack any one of those 3 C's, you're in trouble. You can be consistent and compelling, but you're not producing content, then I don't understand how you're being consistent or compelling. You can produce content, but it's not compelling and it's consistent, and then you're just the annoying person that's always putting stuff in front of people that they don't want to see. You can be compelling with your content, but not consistent, in which case people forget about you because right now people have the attention span of a leaf. So consistent, compelling content. What does that look like for you? I don't know. That's going to depend on your teams and your availability and your personal strategy. For us, I've talked to our team. I'm doing all of our social media right now, but I'm in the process of training a team to do it. There's a young lady that I've actually just in the past 2 weeks transitioned. The beginning of the year, I had a guy that did it. During COVID, he fell away from God. So I've taken it back on myself. I've trained up another team. And now this past few weeks, I've been able to hand that off. So I'm taking my hand off of it. But sitting with my team, I've outlined my expectations. My expectations are consistent, compelling content. So what is consistent? For us, we post a minimum of 3 times per week. Minimum of 3 times per week and a maximum of 5 times per week on social media. How do we come to that number? Well, that's a number that we sat down and we discussed because I don't want to be posting something every single day, because if I post something every single day, then I'm just putting so much stuff out there that people can kind of tune me out. But I don't want to be posting so infrequently that people lose me in the noise. So minimum of 3 times per week, maximum of 5 times per week. But the content needs to be compelling. So my consistency is that every single week I'm posting content. Not every single day, but every single week I'm posting content. I give it some room to breathe. So we'll post on a Monday, skip Tuesday, post on Wednesday, skip Thursday, skip Friday, post on Saturday, something like that. Okay, and it changes from week to week so that people don't ever feel like they have us buttoned down. And we'll go through and schedule posts for a month on some things, and we can schedule them ahead of time. I'll get into that a little bit later. But sometimes we're posting things to keep it fresh. We're posting it every single week. So at the end of a Sunday, what we'll do usually is kind of go and schedule out posts for that week. We're looking at what we posted in the past and comparing it to what we're posting in the future, and try to make sure that we're not posting the same thing over and over. A lot of times, I want you to also do this. Go on your social media account for your church and look at what does it look like. I had a friend of mine, they're from a local church in Lehigh. It's about 1,200 people. And they had an Instagram following of about 70 people on their Instagram. And he sat down and was like, hey, how do I get this better? And I looked and I was like, I want you to look at your Instagram feed They'd had their account open for like 3 years and they had 20 posts on it. And I was like, what do you see? And he's like, pictures of people. I was like, what people? And he's like, oh, this person, this person, this person, this person. I was like, yeah, in every single picture. In every single picture, it was the same group of people across the couple years that they had social media. And what was happening is that there was a person with a camera that liked these people. And so they took a picture of them every single week and they didn't branch out. I was like, you have the largest church in Lehigh, in our city. And I could not tell by looking at your social media because it looks like you have 7 people in your church, right? So consistent, compelling content. What is your stuff? If you go on there, a lot of times what people post is they'll get like a Bible verse off of YouVersion. They'll make like a thing. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not knocking that. But if you go on your Instagram feed or your Facebook feed and everything is that graphic, if you just have a graphic and there's no pictures, I'm not connecting with your church and like relationally. I might be like, hey, these are great verses and they speak to me and they're encouraging, but I'm not connecting to your church relationally at all. I don't see the people there. Why would I want to come to your church? I might follow your church because you encourage me and you lift me up, but why would I want to come there? There's nobody that I can meet because everything I see is a graphic. Or maybe on the other side, maybe everything you post is a picture and there's nothing that's encouraging or uplifting. So what's compelling? The Bible says go out into the highways and the byways, or in the other words, let's make it modern, go out into the YouTubes and the Facebooks and compel them to come in. What is the compelling message that you're trying to tell? Consistency is more important than quantity. I said that. That's a Daniel quote. Consistency is more important than quantity. Some people get on social media and they'll just dump stuff. You ever have that friend, they go on a vacation and they come back from their vacation, they post 11,000 pictures? A lot of times churches do that too. Like we'll have a big event and we're so jazzed up, we're so excited. We had so many people come to this event, we take 1 million pictures and we dump them and then we're gone for 2 months. Consistency is more important than that. I would rather you post one picture from your banger event and then wait a couple of days and post another picture and then wait a couple of days and post another picture and actually drag out, the awesomeness and effectiveness of that event than for you guys to just dump everything. So have a strategy for it. I need to be consistent. So if I don't have a lot of content, that's fine. How do I stretch my content out and make it consistent? Think about the people that have deposited the most into your life. It wasn't just one conversation. It was consistent conversations that you had with them. So you need to be that presence on social media as well. Consistency is more important than your quantity. Next, your content has to be compelling because you're fighting for attention. Give people a reason to follow you. I said that too. You're fighting for attention. We're in, like I said, 3 billion people are on Facebook. You are fighting with every company known to man. You're fighting with every political opinion that's ever been voiced. You're fighting with every dirty laundry airing session that any couple has ever committed to. You are fighting for attention. So give people a reason to follow you. What is your angle? And your angles are going to be really different. A great example is Meredith and Joe's church. They're extremely relational at their church and they know how to laugh and have fun, right? So a good reason to follow them is I want to laugh and have fun. So that's a compelling thing. Don't feel the need to get involved in every debate, not that you guys do, but like using you guys as an example, don't feel a need to like, hey, we're not the church that posts the Veterans Day thing every single time. Like we just don't think that way. We're not on the latest trend, but you know what we are, man? We know how to laugh and have a good time. So we're going to lean into that. And then what you're going to find is that there are people that are going to be attracted to that and they have a reason to follow because they want to laugh and they're just pushed down by the world. And so that's their reason. What's yours? Your church has a unique thing. Wichita, you guys are super fun. Like you guys are just like chill and crazy. And I love you guys. And you guys get up there and you're like, this is us, take it or leave it. And I love that about you guys. Lean into that because there's somebody in there that's like, they feel like an outcast and they feel like they don't fit in anywhere. And they're like, man, I could go to this church because it's just like, come as you are and it's welcoming. So it has to be compelling. If it's not compelling, people will tune you out. So now we get into the strategy. How do we do this? So we know that our content has to be consistent and compelling. How? Pastor Daniel, what do we do? I don't have a social media at all. Where do we start? I will tell you this as somebody that has been managing our social media for the past few months because of COVID, and this is not the way that it's looked for us normally. Your social media content is generated and distributed by teams. A lot of times in church, we try to find that one person that we can push something off onto because we don't care about it. We don't understand it. It's got to be generated by teams. Everything that we do in this church, and this is the way forward for you guys, is through the context of teams. If your solution has a name, it will fail. If there's now, if your church is smaller and your team is one person, that's fine, but it's got to be a team. Never say, okay, social media, Connor, you know what I mean? Like social media, Marco, like that's our guy. No, it's a social media team, and social media team has just Marco on it. But Marco, your goal is to develop a social media team. So you're going to pull in Kobe, and you're going to pull in Brittany, and you're going to pull in Derek, and you're going to pull these people into the team and develop them because content has to be distributed by teams. Okay? So like I said earlier, churches already generate content. Pastors that are in the room, you generate content. That part's done. You need to develop a team that can capture and distribute that content. So as an example, what I have is I have a social media team, and I have people that take notes during my sermon. Okay, what's something that stood out to you? So I got a girl that's taking pictures, I got another girl that's taking notes, and I got another girl that knows how to work Photoshop. So what happens at the end of my sermon, those girls get together, one person picks out the best picture, the other person picks out the best quote, they give it to the Photoshop girl, and she takes a picture of me and puts a quote on top of it, posts it on social media. I generated the content, the team packaged that content and distributed that content. So we're bringing all those things together. And now somebody outside of my church is getting a nugget from the message that I preached because a team came together and just distributed that content and repurposed and repackaged that content. So when it comes to your messages, pastors in the room, get some people, and those 3 people can just be one person. And they don't have Photoshop. They have an app on their phone that lets them put text on the top of it, which I can tell you a couple of different apps for that as we get a little bit later on. But you can take a picture on your cell phone. You can put text on it on your cell phone, and you can post it to social media on your cell phone. And pastor, you could be preaching, and maybe that's your wife that's doing it to start off. Or maybe it's a team of people. Maybe it's one person. Maybe it's 10. I don't know. But you generate the content, or the pastor generates the content, and then the team captures and distributes that content. So how do we develop a team? How do we develop a team? Okay, I don't know. I don't have anybody that can do it. We start with identifying potential. Identifying potential. Who are the people that have the potential to do this? Remember that church I told you earlier that had 800 people and they hadn't posted anything on social media that month? The pastor was like, dude, what do I do? I don't have anybody in my church that is going to school for marketing or communications or whatever. I don't have anybody that's you. And the pastor's thing was like, I need a Daniel. I need a you that can do this for me. I was like, you have a me. You just haven't found them yet. You haven't developed them yet. So he's like, well, how do I find that person? So you have to identify the potential. You guys all have a strong suit, and you're going to be more easily apt to identify somebody with that potential according to your strong suit. So if you're a good communicator, you're going to identify somebody that's a communicator. If you're really organized, you're going to find the people in your church that are organized. You're going to be drawn to that. It's harder for you if you don't have an eye for it, but you just have to keep an eye out for eyes. So look at these emojis, okay? You guys can draw those if you want or whatever, but keep an eye out for an eye. So I told this pastor, I said, what I want you to do, if you want to start developing a team, is have somebody in your church, yourself, whoever, just start following everybody in your church on Instagram. Like if they follow your church or whatever, follow them back and look at what they post. There's going to be a teenager in your church, and you're going to look at their Instagram and be like, man, they've got some good pictures on there. Great, I've got a photographer now. You know, they might not know how to use a professional camera. I can teach them. They have an eye. So I need to have an eye for somebody with an eye. So and some of you guys, you got little kids and you've got your daughter and she likes to put everything in a row and she wants, the dresses organized and stuff like that. You're like, oh, you're going to be great in the office. You know what I mean? Like, I see that in you, and we need to do that in the digital space as well. I was just up at a church in Chicago and the pastor's like, I don't know who can do it. I said, okay, show me your church's Instagram. Show me the church's Instagram. I was like, tell me people in your church. And I went through and I started opening up their Instagram, and we found somebody and I connected it with that pastor. And now that person is developing a social media team for them as well. The big church I told you about did the exact same thing. They started looking at people. They found out that there was a young guy in the church that did freelance photography, and he had his own little photography business. His name's Nate. They added him to the team as a volunteer. A couple months ago, he became a full-time staff hire for them. So they went from, I don't have anybody to, oh, Nate might be good. And then Nate came on as a volunteer. Nate only knew photography. He did not know social media, did not know graphics, video, anything like that. But they've been investing into him and developing him. And from the start of the year to now, he's a full-time staff hire for that church. So check out other people's social. I already said that. So what if that's too complicated for me? What if I don't know who's following me, blah, blah, blah? Well, then get creative. One of the things that you can do, and I helped a church do this a while back, or recommended a church do this a while back, do a photography competition. Go up on a Sunday and be like, hey guys, I've got a $25 gift card to Outback, whatever. What we want you guys to do is we're going to do a photography competition. Bring your phones, bring your cameras, and take pictures over the next month, and then post those and tag the church in it. And when you do that, we're going to pick the best photographer, and you're going to get this gift card to Outback. So that everyone's competing for it. And then you have now identified the person in your church that's the most interested, and then the best. And let's say it's just 2 people that do it. You're like, okay, well, it's you, you know? Maybe it's 1 person. It's you. You're the photographer now because they're interested enough to do it for a $25 gift card. And then if multiple people do it, now I have choices. Now I potentially have a team. I have more than 1 person. I have 3 people that I can choose from for it. So be creative. How am I going to find somebody to develop this team? Okay. Then you start building the team. I've identified the person. I've got you. It's Nate. I've got you. It's Marco. Marco, what were you doing? Did you ever touch a camera before 2020?
I have not.
Right. And now Marco is on our live stream team, right?
Yes.
And you're stuck. You're not going anywhere.
Yeah. I'm staying there.
So we built a team. Like I said, at the beginning of the year, we did not have a live stream team. We had no live stream team. We had 1 camera that was just nailed down. Nobody touched it. Somebody pressed a button at the start of service, pressed another button at the end of service. Now we have a team of 11 people that are doing it. Social media as well. I had a guy doing it last year, and my big recommendation to him was build a team. And he's like, I'm just going to do it all myself. And one of the mistakes I made was just allowing him to do it by himself because he was so gifted. But then what happened? If your answer has a name, it will fail. He left the church during COVID. He's not serving God anymore. That's terrible. It's unfortunate, but it happens. So now I'm saying, okay, I will not compromise on this. I'm developing a team. So right now I'm developing a girl named Jimena. She does not have a photography background, but she went to school for communications. She is passionate about social media. So I've been meeting with her 1 hour every single week and teaching her everything I know and developing her. There's another girl in our church named Aisha who's really passionate about photography, developing her in photography. She's working under Jimena. Jimena is taking the social media and creative capture department of our church. We have made a ministry. There's subcategories under that ministry. And we're developing Miranda. We're developing Nicole and Julia. These are all people that we're developing to be a part of that social media team. Another girl named Nicole, we're training her to do the graphics. So we're building that team. This used to be 1 person for me last year. That was a mistake. I need a team. You might be in a situation where your team is 1 person, but again, you want to develop it in the context of team, and we bring more people into the team. So you build a team by mobilizing talent to capture and distribute compelling content. I mobilize you. I'm putting a camera in your hand. I'm giving you the password to our social media account. You are mobilized to capture and distribute compelling content. That's what you do. Look for the angle. Start small. Okay, as I'm talking about building a social media team, this becomes intimidating for you guys because some of you guys have no social media team. That's okay. My friend's church that I told you about, they started with Nate. And now Nate has developed other people. Nate is a full-time staff hire, and part of his job is to manage the social media team for that church. Start small. A few months ago, I started with Aisha. And then after a while, I added Jimena. Jimena started off next to Aisha, and then I started recognizing the potential in Jimena. I moved Jimena into that position, and I'm starting to take my hands off of Jimena. I started small. I started with 1 person, and now we have about 4 or 5 people that are on our social media and capture team. Okay? Same thing with live stream. Live stream, the beginning of the year, if you guys were sitting in on the live stream thing, I sat down with Andrew the beginning of the year whenever COVID hit, and I said, I need you off the worship team, and I need you to develop a live stream team. I don't need you to be my live stream guy. I don't need you to do live stream. I need you to develop a live stream team. And I empowered him and mobilized him to develop that team. Next, master 1 platform at a time. Start somewhere. I'm telling you this, and some of you guys are like, we don't have a YouTube. Oh crap. We got to go out and get a YouTube. Pastor Daniel told us to get a YouTube. Don't do that. One platform at a time. Build a footprint. You want to get on as many platforms as possible, but like for us, we're not on Twitter. I don't understand Twitter. I don't get it. I don't have a Twitter. I don't want to tweet. I don't like Twitter. But my goal with Jimena is I've already had conversations with her. I was like, I want you to get us on Twitter because I feel like we're ready to get on it. I don't understand it, so I never touched it because I couldn't master it. And I didn't have the bandwidth to be able to figure it out. That's fine. But dig in on the ones that you can get on. Maybe that's just Facebook for right now. My recommendation would be start with Facebook. Before you go anywhere else, start with Facebook. Before you go to Instagram, anywhere, start with Facebook. And then move on from there. Depending on the skill set of your team, then you can add an Instagram or YouTube or whatever. But master one platform at a time. Start with Facebook. Your greatest resource in your church is young people. Your greatest resource for your teams in your church in this area is young people. Marco, how old are you?
I am 16.
When did you turn 16?
September 17th of this year.
So just a couple months ago, when you first were added to the team, how old were you?
I was 15.
Awesome. 15 years old. And he's on our live stream team, and he's a integral part. We'd die if Marco wasn't here. We would die. But Marco is here, and Marco saves the day, and he's a kid. Pastor Henry was talking about how they didn't have anything on social media, nothing. And his daughter, Naomi, how old's Naomi? 19? So Pastor Henry's daughter has spearheaded, am I correct in saying that? The social media for your church, and she's 19 years old. And that's his daughter, and she's been sitting in his church since she was a baby. Your greatest resource when it comes to this is going to be young people. I was talking to a pastor friend of mine, and I was talking to him about they weren't on social media, and he's like, well, the old people don't understand it, and I don't trust young people. I was like, well, then you're never going to be online. Like, then you're a dinosaur and you're going to die, if I can be blunt. He's like, oh, young people are too undependable and they don't have a good work ethic. I was like, they're all you have. You know what I mean? Teach them, develop a good work ethic, do something. But young people are going to be your greatest resource. I have put cameras in the hands of 13-year-old kids and developed them and watched them do fantastic. Almost every single person on our the oldest person on our social media and capture team is, I think, 23. That's the oldest person that I have. Youngest person is probably 15 right now. And so lean into the young people. Lean into them. Honestly, for some of you guys in here, they're going to know it better than you. And you're going to be like, you know, how do we tweet? Like, I don't know how to tweet. I don't know. It's stupid. I refuse to say it. Next thing, develop a strategy. So we're building a team. Now we're developing a strategy. Bible says, without vision, people perish. People perish for lack of vision. We need to have a vision for our social media. Sometimes I talk to a lot of people, they're trying to start, and they're like, I just need to get on. To what ends? What's your strategy? What's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish? You need to identify the wins on the front end. Develop a strategy for your social media presence. What does that strategy look like? Let's break it down. This isn't going to be a comprehensive list, right? But this is just to get the wheels turning. One of your strategies is, what is your online voice? What is your online voice? If I were to call, if Derek were to call me, Derek's my brother. If Derek were to call me, I don't need to look at caller ID. I know Derek's voice. You know? If Derek called me and he had laryngitis, I'd be like, who's this? Right? Or if somebody else called me and said, hi, this is Derek. I'm like, no, you're not. Unless this was Derek when we were 13. Like, people used to call us and Derek would answer the phone and be like, hi, Linda. And he's like, I'm Derek. But I know his voice. People need to stay, brother. You need to have a voice for your church. You need to have a voice for your church. I go on some churches' social medias and there's like 1 million emojis and 13,000 exclamation points. That's not our voice. That could be yours. And that's fine. That's fine. What's your voice? Maybe we're the friendly, fun-loving, huggy church. Great. That's your voice. So your strategy is, hey, what do we have? Let's lean into that. For us, we're a welcoming church. I want people to know that they can come in here and be welcome. So when you look on our social media, it's an inviting presence, right? Our voice is that. Our voice is, I tell our team, our voice is victory. It's not just a name, it's an identity. So we will never be negative. We will never be down. We will never be like, this even goes to like if somebody's up on stage. Sometimes I have like a worship leader go up there like, how many of you guys, you just had an awful week? And this week's been hard. And this week's difficult. and it's brutal and it's blah, 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 and it's this and that and it's but we're going to worship. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, that's not our voice. Our voice is, hey guys, we're excited to be here tonight. We're excited that you are with us. God is good. God is moving. The voice is victory. So that's part of our strategy, is developing a voice. Where do you specialize? What's your angle? Find your angle. Like I've kind of already belabored this point, but your church has a unique angle. Maybe you guys are just a worshiping church. You just love to worship. That's your angle. And we're going to do some little impromptu, like late night campfire jam sessions. And we're going to live stream that and do that all the time because that's who we are. We're the worshiping church. Or maybe we're really good with Bible studies and you guys have somebody in your church that just knows how to like exegete the word and break down the Bible. And we're going to be just like the Bible church. And that's us. Great. Like, where do you specialize? Lean into your giftings. Don't try to be something you're not, guys. A lot of times, I tell our team all the time is like, we're not Elevation Church. You know, we're not. We don't have their production levels. I'm not Stephen Furtick. I can't touch him with a 10-foot pole. I'm Daniel, and that, take it or leave it. But I'm going to lean into Daniel. You know, we're going to lean into victory, not try to be something that we're not. You waste a lot of time trying to be something you're not instead of specializing in what you do. How do we best represent and sell the church experience? This is something I want you to think about. And this is a dirty word when it comes to churches, is selling your church. But in all honesty, like it's just a word. We're marketing your church. We're selling your church's experience. How do we sell the fact that Pastor Paul, you guys meet in a high school or you know, outside of COVID? Yeah. But historically you guys have met in a high school. Mm-hmm. That's different. So if I grew up meeting in a place with pews, how can you sell me on, man, I'm nervous. I don't want to go to a high school and sit like, this is weird. How do I sell you on that experience? I need to coax you out of the pews and out of your religious upbringing or whatever that looked like and get you into something new. How do you best sell that experience? This is another thing for your strategy. How do I bring value to my followers? A lot of times when we think about social media, we're thinking about value to our organization instead of value to our end user. If we start with value to our end user, it will add value to the organization. So here's an example. Probably one of the biggest explosions in social media in the church world is Transformation Church. Pastor Mike Todd out of Oklahoma. And they exploded. How did they explode? Because Pastor Mike Todd developed a extremely helpful relationship sermon series, and they put it out there, and it was so valuable to people that people started sharing it, and the content was so helpful to people that it brought awareness to the church, and the church exploded, and now they're probably one of the most visible churches on social media because they just started with, hey, how do we just create something that's valuable? Sometimes you need to post just to get in front of people, but that should not be your strategy. Your strategy should be, how do I create value? One of the things, my brother is actually brilliant on social media. He's a realtor. But one of the things that he did, and this is his strategy, is he was looking at realtors and they're all boring. Like, here is a house, here is a bedroom, here's a bed. And he's like, hey, that's not me. I'm funny. And if you guys ever get a chance, follow my brother, Gregory on YouTube or Facebook. He's hilarious. And he does videos where it's like, he's selling a house to Marty McFly and Doc, and they drive in a DeLorean from Back to the Future, and they're going around the house, and he's selling that. He did one where he had his house on a place called Foxtail Lane, and so he was like a hunter in a ghillie suit, and he's like, hey, we're at Foxtail Lane! And he's like, running through the house. It's hilarious. And his goal is, hey, I want to make people laugh. I want to make people laugh. And it has, like, realtors all over the country are calling him, and my brother's being interviewed on podcast. He has other realtors that want to hire him at their firms because he just said, hey, I don't just want to make a real estate video and just sell the house. I want people to have a good time. And that's his core value. He wants people to enjoy themselves and stuff. And so as a result of that, he's bringing value to his followers, and his group or his exposure is increased as a result of that. Final point is just implement the magic, guys. Implement the magic. You guys have magic in your church. You guys have magic in the people in your church. You have magic in the relationships. You have magic in the teams. You just got to do it. You just got to go. The point of Go Conference is to go. You just got to go. So get started. You might not have all the answers today, but take what you've learned here and implement it. So how do we do that? We just start creating. Just start creating. Get creative. You can start with your cell phone. It really doesn't matter, but just get going and don't take it as an excuse. Okay? So that's my presentation for you guys. We have about 10 minutes or so for Q&A. What are some questions that you guys have on developing social media? Yes, Meredith.
Just a super basic question, but what would you suggest for like the best app for photography? Like people that take pictures on their cell phones and it's like, nah.
So I'll give you guys, if you're starting on your cell phones, which is where people are starting out mostly, this is my recommendation. If you don't have cameras, we have a whole bunch of nice cameras and we're really blessed and fortunate for that. Get the nicest phone that you have in your church. So in this room, I have an iPhone 11 Pro Max, probably one of the nicer phones in this room, if not the nicest, unless there's anybody in here with like a 12 or whatever. So what I would do is say, who has the nicest? What do you got?
12.
Do you? All right, my guy. My guy. So you're the social media guy now. So get the nicest phone that you have, that you can use, whatever. Take pictures with the nicest phone that you have. There are a couple apps that you can use. I'm going to tell you these. These are all free apps. Okay? The first one is an app called Snapseed. Snapseed is a photo editing app. Great app to adjust to your pictures. You can look up tutorials online for how to use it. It's a lot of really in-depth applications for it, and I do a lot on Snapseed. Another great app is called Visco, VSCO. VSCO. Visco applies, all it is it's a film stock emulator, so it makes your pictures look vintagey. It gives them a really nice, cool vibe. Visco is a great app. They have filters that are free and then some that you can pay to download different filter packs. So if you like it, then maybe, when I say pay, it's like 99 cents for a pack of like 10 filters or whatever. I would say dabble in Visco, and if you like it, then invest in buying more filters. Another great one is, okay, I'm going to tell you this one, but I don't want you guys to abuse it because this is a special effects app. This is important. With special effects, most people overuse special effects and it looks trashy. Don't do that. I'm going to tell you this. Don't overuse it. It's called Lens Distortions. And Lens Distortions, you can add light leaks or like shiny type things. You can add like fog, mist, light rays, all that kind of stuff. If you use it sparingly in certain situations, it can really make your pictures pop. Lens Distortions. If you want to add graphics to your pictures, there is, where's that app at? One second. Maybe I have it on my iPad. Oh no, okay. Here are some, there's one called Typorama. Typorama, you're able to, like I said, if you want to do sermon quote pictures, somebody takes a picture, they edit it in Snapseed or Visco, you open it up in Typorama and you can type in text that then goes over your image. There's a bunch of apps that do this. These are ones that I used before we had a team when I was doing things on my cell phone. There's probably better options in this now, but Typorama is another example. There's another one called Legend. Legend is something that will make short, like 15 to 30 second animations. So sometimes that's more eye-catching than just a picture. You can take a picture, put it in the background, and then you can animate text to like come over, and there'll be like little color bars that like go across the screen. Very basic, very simple animations, but they're very clean looking. It's called Legend. And that will help you do it from your phone. So a lot of you guys starting off, Legend's great because you can get a picture. Like let's say, for example, you have a baptism. You put a picture of a baptism and then you say baptisms this Sunday, 10 a.m. And then the words baptism Sunday will kind of like, they'll come in and it does it really clean and modern looking. So those are some examples for you on apps. Yes, Derek?
I use another one called Over.
Okay.
For like adding text and stuff like. It's also one of those ones you can get for free, but you can upgrade to. Cool. And it's pretty easy to use.
Yeah. Over. Awesome. Any other questions, guys? So we talked about apps. Anything else on social media platforms? Yes, Meredith, go ahead.
All right, so if you're graduating beyond cell phone use,
yes,
what would you suggest? Is there like a camera that you're like, okay, this can at least get you going?
Yeah. You go with the DSLR, which I've got. Marco, can you grab one of the DSLRs in there? If the Canon's in there, bring that. If not, bring me the Sony. What camera you use is a subjective question. There's the main cameras that you're going to see are like Canons. Yeah, that's fine. Canon, Sony's, Nikons, all that sort of thing. So this is what's called a DSLR. So it looks like this, and then a lens goes on the front of this. I would not recommend you guys go with a point and shoot camera because your cell phone is probably going to be as good or better than point and shoot cameras. I would recommend you go do a cell phone. Once you're done with a cell phone, you're ready to get a camera, go with one of these guys, DSLR. If I were you, if budget is an issue, go with like last year's model. You don't have to go with the latest and greatest. My recommendation for you would be to go with one that is full frame. So I'm going to give you a very easy, accessible answer. This is not like the definitive answer. Somebody can fight me on this. I don't care. I'm not going to die on this hill. But a great camera to start off with is a camera that we currently use called the Canon 6D. Right now they're on the Canon 6D Mark II, which is a newer version. You don't need that. It has a bunch of bells and whistles that you don't need, but it is a full frame camera, and it's Canon's cheapest full frame entry camera, and it's last year's model. So it will be cheaper. I think that it retails brand new for about $800, but you can find it used really, really easy for a lot less. And that would probably be, you get that one and then a good zoom lens. A good lens to get for you guys would be just get one good versatile lens. So a good lens for us that we use a lot is there's a 24 to 105 millimeter zoom lens. This is the important part with cameras, guys. I would recommend that you get a used good lens instead of a brand new bad lens. This is really important when we come to cameras. A lot of people will buy the most expensive camera body that they can and then put the cheapest lens on it possible. That's the worst mistake you can make. I would rather you have a nice lens and an older camera body than to have the latest and greatest camera body and a crappy lens. The reason why is because the lens is what introduces the image into the camera. So think about it this way. I can, pay to get all kinds of surgery on, my eyes or whatever, and then I put a really bad pair of glasses over them, and now everything else is useless because I'm seeing it through the water spots on the lens. Does that make sense? So with the lenses, you want to have the nicest lens that you can possibly find. Get an older one, get it used. Like those things are fine as long as it works well. Get a nice, good, high quality lens. For Canon, it's anything that's their L series lens, called L series. Those are going to be expensive if you buy them brand new, but again, get a generation old. So right now they're on the third L series Canon lens. Get the first L series Canon lens. Get it used, but get that nicer, higher quality glass lens and put it on a cheaper camera or a used camera. The body is not as important as the lens. So, but to get you guys started, that would be a good place to start. If you guys have any questions, if you need me to help you build a shopping list for photography to get you started, we can do that, but that would be my recommendation on equipment. Yes?
How would you, what's your opinion on a clip over lens for the cell phone?
To be honest, those are pretty pointless.
Yeah.
They're pretty pointless because it's like, you're not adding anything optically. The only time that makes sense is just like the novelty of it, like the ability, if I put a super wide lens on it and I could see the whole room, but you lose image quality when you do that. When you put a telephoto on, you're losing image quality. A lot of times those come from China and they're just like the cheapest, most basic thing. In a pinch, sure, in a pinch, but I wouldn't look at that as like a viable thing. So I think I got time for one more question, then we gotta go. Yes, Paul.
If you have $50 a month to spend on advertising, how are you doing that?
$50 a month to spend on advertising is going to depend a lot on what your goals are and who your target demographic is. So knowing your audience. Derek, you've done really well on Instagram, correct?
Yeah, Instagram's...
For me, I think cost per click, Instagram is the cheapest by far. Instagram is the cheapest and most accessible. So if I have $50 a month and that's all I have, I would probably go to Instagram. But understand that my demographic on Instagram is going to skew younger, a lot younger. Younger people are on Instagram. So if the demographic of my church is geared more towards older people, then I need to probably go on Facebook, which is more expensive. Again, my demographics, male, YouTube, all that stuff, but Instagram is going to be extremely cheap, but you have to make sure that you actually have an Instagram presence. You don't want to be marketing if you don't have like a presence there. You want to make sure So ultimately, whatever platform you're dug into, whatever platform caters towards your audience, and I would just start small there. But we're still also trying to figure out like marketing in the digital space. But the great thing about marketing in the digital space is you can actually select your audience and get as narrow as you want. And so you guys can pinpoint in and just go like, you can go to like a zip code and say, I only want this $50 to go to the people that are within 10 minutes of my church. You can actually draw in a radius from your church and say, I want to spend $50 a month to people that live within a mile of my church. And then just really, really narrow in my marketing on that. That's a complicated answer. The best thing I could possibly say is really dial in your audience. Who am I trying to reach? What's my strategy? And let that inform how I spend my $50. So cool, guys. All right, we're going back downstairs for the mini messages. We'll see you there.